If you are 75 and losing sleep over your prodigal son, hear my voice. My beloved child, yes, I still call you my child, even today, as you carry 75 years of life, love, and sacrifice upon your weary shoulders. I am speaking directly to you right now. I see you sitting there in the quietness of your home, perhaps bathed in the pale light of a television screen or the soft glow of a bedside lamp. I know why sleep has become a stranger to you. I know exactly what keeps you awake in those long, heavy hours of the night. You are losing sleep over your child. You are staring at the ceiling, thinking about your prodigal son, your wandering daughter, and your heart is breaking in a silence so loud it deafens you to everything else around you. I have seen every single tear you have shed when you thought no one was watching. I have been there in the hallway when you paused outside their old bedroom door, remembering the laughter that used to echo off those walls. Now, the house is so profoundly quiet. It is a modern isolation that is uniquely painful, a heavy silence that seems to magnify every regret, every harsh word ever spoken, and every decision you wish you could take back. The enemy of your soul, the relentless antagonist of pride and guilt, whispers in your ear during those 3 a.m. hours. It tells you that you have failed. It tells you that if only you had been stricter, or perhaps more lenient, if only you had said the right thing at the right time, your child would not have walked away. Stop. Breathe. Listen to my voice right now. I am not here to hand you a list of your parenting mistakes. I am here to validate the agonizing pain you are carrying. I know how much you love them. I know that you poured your youth, your resources, your energy, and your entire heart into raising them. You spent decades building a life for them, trying to shield them from the very pain they have now walked directly into. At 75, you should be resting in the golden years of your life, enjoying the harvest of your hard work, surrounded by peace. Instead, you are standing on the porch of your heart, looking down a long, dusty road, waiting for a silhouette to appear on the horizon. I understand that waiting. I understand it more profoundly than anyone else in the universe. Do you remember the story I told about the father who had 2 sons? The younger one demanded his inheritance, turned his back on his family, and journeyed into a distant land, squandering everything. That father knew the exact agony you are feeling tonight. He knew the disrespect, the shock of the departure, and the terrifying unknown of where his child was sleeping or what they were eating. But notice what that father did not do. He did not run after the boy to force him back. He did not tear himself apart with guilt over letting him go. He allowed the painful gift of free will to take its course, but he never, ever stopped looking down that road. You have been carrying this unbearable burden of guilt for far too long. The world, and perhaps even some well-meaning people in your life, might have made you feel like you are somehow responsible for the choices your grown child is making. But you are not. They are walking their own path, making their own choices, just as that young prodigal did. The heavy coat of blame you wear every single day is not from me. It is an exhausting weight that is stealing your joy, ruining your health, and blinding you to the profound truth that your child is ultimately in my hands. You are deeply tired. Your mind is exhausted from trying to solve a puzzle that cannot be fixed by your own strength or your own worry. Your heart is bruised from the rejection, from the unanswered phone calls, from the holidays spent staring at an empty chair. I see it all. I feel every ache of your 75-year-old heart. I want you to know that it is perfectly normal to feel this devastating grief. It is the price of a deep, unconditional love. But today, tonight, in this very moment, I am asking you to stop punishing yourself. You have suffered enough. You have cried enough secret tears. I have collected every single one of them. You are carrying a weight you were never designed to carry, and it is time for me to step in and lift it off your shoulders. I want you to look back with me for a moment, not with eyes of regret, but with the clarity of grace. How did 75 years pass so quickly? It feels like just yesterday you were holding them as a newborn, entirely dependent on you, their tiny fingers wrapped tightly around yours. In those early days, love was simple, but life, in all its relentless speed, happened so incredibly fast. You woke up early, you worked late, you navigated the endless, heavy demands of making a living, keeping a roof over your heads, and trying to prepare your child for a world that you knew could be unforgiving. You wanted to protect them. You wanted to give them absolutely everything you perhaps did not have growing up. In that beautiful, exhausting process of providing and protecting, the weight began to accumulate. It did not happen all at once. It happened day by day, year by year. The worries of this world, the stress of modern living, the sudden cultural shifts that seemed to happen overnight, they all began to slowly steal your peace. Without even realizing it, as the decades rolled by, invisible walls were built. You built walls of expectation, perhaps out of a desperate, loving desire to keep them on the right path. They built walls of independence, driven by the illusion that the world outside offered something better, something freer than the familiar love in your home. The modern world is so overwhelmingly loud, my dear friend. It screams at the younger generation, pulling them with false promises of instant gratification and hollow freedom. It tells them that authority is to be rejected, that tradition is obsolete, and that true happiness is found in wandering away from their roots. And so, the drift began. It is rarely a sudden, violent break. It is usually a slow fade, a missed dinner, a shortened phone call, a conversation that ends in misunderstanding, until one day, the gap became a chasm, and you found yourself standing on one side, wondering where the time went and how the distance grew so vast. You blame yourself for this distance. You sit in your quiet living room and dissect every argument, every disciplinary moment, every single time you were too tired to play or too stressed to listen. You have taken the anatomy of this fractured relationship and placed the entire, crushing burden of it onto your own frail shoulders. But you must understand how the antagonist of your soul operates. The enemy uses the relentless passage of time, the sting of your past mistakes, and the complexities of human relationships to weave a suffocating web of condemnation around your heart. He wants you isolated in your 75 years, trapped in a dark prison of if-onlys. He wants you to believe that the story is over, that the damage is permanent, and that your final legacy is one of failure. But that is not how I write your story. I want to remind you of the very heart of the parable we spoke of, the story of the prodigal son that I shared so long ago. Do you remember what happened when the son finally came to his senses? The scripture tells us in the Gospel of Luke, "But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him." Hear the profound, eternal promise in those words. The father saw him while he was still a long way off. Why? Because the father was looking. He never gave up hope. But more importantly, I want you to know that I see your child right now, even while they are a long way off. You cannot see them. You do not know where they are sleeping or what specific battles they are facing tonight. But my eyes have never, ever left them. I am walking with them in that distant land. The heavy burden you are carrying is the illusion of control. You spent decades controlling their environment to keep them safe, and now that you cannot control their choices, you are spiraling into anxiety. The anatomy of your exhaustion is rooted in a pure love that refuses to let go, tangled tightly with a fear that I am somehow not big enough to bring them home. But I am. I saw you labor through the decades. I saw the world steal your peace, and I see the exact location of your wandering child tonight. You do not have to carry the agonizing weight of their rescue. That is my job. Your job was to love them, and you did. Now, it is time to understand that the walls built by time and pride are no match for the relentless pursuit of my grace. I know exactly what the antagonist of your soul whispers to you when you look at the calendar. It points to your 75 years and tells you that time is running out. It uses the natural fading of your physical strength to create an unnatural panic in your spirit. You lie awake in the dark, your heart racing with the terrifying thought, what if my time comes to an end before they come home? What if my eyes close for the final time in this world, and that empty chair is still sitting there at the table? It is the most profound, agonizing fear a parent can carry. You feel a desperate urgency to fix the broken pieces of your family before the sun sets on your journey. But right now, In the quiet intimacy of this moment, I want to show you the turning point of my grace. I want to offer you a profound shift in perspective, a divine solution that the world cannot understand. The world operates on a strict timeline. It tells you that if something is broken for decades, it is broken forever. It tells you that if you are 75, the major chapters of your story have already been written and sealed. But my economy of grace does not work like the ticking clock on your wall. Time is a boundary for you, but it is an instrument for me. It is never, ever too late in my kingdom. The time you have remaining on this earth, whether it feels brief or expansive, is more than enough for my redemptive power to complete its perfect work. A single, defining moment of my grace can completely rewrite decades of wandering, rebellion, and silence. I am the God of the 11th hour. I am the restorer of lost years, and I am asking you today to surrender your timeline entirely to me. You have been trying to be the savior of your child. You have exhausted your mind trying to orchestrate the perfect scenario, the perfect conversation, the perfect text message that will finally make them wake up and return. But you cannot save them. Only I can do that. And the beautiful, liberating truth is that I am already actively working in their life, even if you see absolutely no physical evidence of it today. Think back to the prodigal son in that distant, unforgiving country. When he was at his lowest point, starving and feeding the pigs, it was not a letter from his father that brought him to his senses. It was not his father's anxiety or sleepless nights that reached across the miles to pull him out of the mud. It was the sudden, overwhelming memory of his father's goodness. It was the realization that even the servants in his father's house had bread to spare. I am the one who whispers those memories into the minds of the wandering. I orchestrate the circumstances in that distant land to bring them to the end of themselves, so they can finally look up and see their desperate need for home. The heavy burden of trying to change their heart is crushing you, and it was never your assignment. Your assignment was to love them, to raise them as best you could with the tools you had, and to bring them to my feet. You have done that faithfully. Now, I am offering you an exchange. Hand me your agonizing worry, your sleepless nights, and the crushing guilt of the past. Give me the heavy, tear-soaked burden of that empty chair. In return, I will give you my perfect peace. It is a peace that makes absolutely no sense to the world. A peace that allows you to sleep soundly, even when the storm is still raging. A peace that guards your 75-year-old heart and mind. I want you to stop running down that dusty road in your mind, trying to drag them back by force. Instead, I want you to stand securely on the solid porch of my promises. Look out at the horizon, not with frantic anxiety, but with a quiet, powerful expectancy. My grace is actively pursuing your child in places you cannot go, and in ways you cannot comprehend. The rest of your days are meant to be lived in the warmth of my presence, not in the cold shadow of their absence. Let me take the heavy reins. Let my perfect timing be enough for you. Breathe in my peace right now, and know that I hold both you and your wandering child securely in the palms of my hands. My beloved child, now that you understand my grace and my perfect timing, I want to show you exactly how to walk in the profound peace I am offering you today. You have carried the paralyzing weight of the prodigal son for entirely too long. Your 75-year-old frame was meant to carry the light yoke of my joy, not the crushing, impossible boulder of another person's free will. So, how do we begin this new chapter together? How do you practically lay down a burden you have held so tightly to your chest for years? I want to give you a few simple, gentle steps to practice every single day, guided entirely by my hand. First, we must change what happens in the middle of the night. When you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and the silence of the house threatens to drown you in anxiety, I want you to stop reaching for the memories that hurt. Do not lie there rehearsing the past arguments or imagining the worst possible scenarios for your wandering child. Instead, in that very moment, I want you to speak directly to me. You do not need eloquent or perfect words. Simply say, Lord, they are yours. I release them to you again tonight. Imagine yourself physically taking your child by the hand and placing that hand into mine. See my grip closing firmly and safely around theirs. When the enemy tries to hand the worry back to you, you must gently refuse it. Remind your own heart that the creator of the universe is currently on the night watch. You are officially off duty. Close your eyes and allow my presence to be the heavy, warm blanket that finally brings you rest. Second, I want you to look at that empty chair differently. Every time you walk past the dining room table or see their old spot in the living room, a sharp pang of grief strikes your heart. You see an agonizing void. Starting today, I want you to transform that chair from a monument of sorrow into an altar of profound expectation. When you look at it, do not see their absence. See the very place where my grace is actively preparing a seat for their return. Every time you walk past it, let it be an act of faith. Say out loud, I am keeping the light on, and I am trusting the Lord of the harvest to bring them home. You see, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not yet seen. Reclaim your home as a sanctuary of hope rather than a museum of regrets and what-ifs. Third, and this is crucial, my precious child, you must give yourself permission to live the rest of your days with genuine joy. The antagonist wants you to believe that if you are happy while your child is wandering, you somehow do not love them enough. He wants you to think that wearing a heavy cloak of mourning is the only appropriate way to prove your devotion as a parent. That is a cruel lie designed to steal the remaining golden years of your life. I desire for you to laugh again. I desire for you to enjoy the morning sunlight, the taste of a good meal, and the sweet fellowship of friends. Your joy is not a betrayal of your prodigal child. It is actually a powerful spiritual weapon. It is a declaration that your ultimate trust is anchored firmly in me, not in your temporary circumstances. When they finally look toward home, let them see a light burning brightly, not a house consumed by darkness and despair. You have run a long, exhausting race, and you have loved them fiercely. Now, it is time to let me take the heavy lifting. I am the God who turns ashes into beauty and restores the years the locusts have eaten. The final chapters of your story are not defined by the one who walked away, but by the one who stayed with you through it all. I am here, I am working, and I am asking you to finally rest. If you are ready to stop carrying this unbearable weight on your own, I invite you to make a declaration of faith right now. Leave your burden in the comments below. Type, I receive your peace, Lord. Let this be the moment you officially surrender the heavy outcome to me. And if you need a daily reminder of my love, my grace, and my presence, I lovingly invite you to subscribe to this channel. Let us walk this path together every single day until the glorious moment they finally come walking up that road. You are deeply loved, my child. Rest in me tonight.